Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Meredith Phillips. I'm a writer, reader, and bunny mama. Today we're going to do something a little different. I am going to show you my journal collection and share sort of my journaling journey, how I started, the different phases I've gone through with it, and give you 5 tips if you are wanting to start your own journal. So as you can see, I have a huge amount of journals. There are notebook ones, there's Moleskina's, there are art journals I created. So I'm gonna show you a whole bunch of different stuff and just kind of give you an idea of where I started with journaling. So like a lot of you have probably done in the past, I started trying to journal when I was in middle school and early high school. And of course you get those journals where you go for like 2 or 3 days, maybe a week, and then you get bored with it or you forget about it and you don't really continue. My first one where I really kind of wanted to do it, but I really didn't get that far. Oh my gosh, where is it? It's here somewhere. Oh, here it is. It was one of these kind of journals. I had gotten it as a gift from one of the small group leaders at my church, and I was really excited about it. Yeah, I started this on July 10th, 2000. So this thing is 20 years old. Oh my gosh. I went for, I'm trying to see when the last one in here was. The last entry is from August 14th. So I went for a little over a month and then I stopped, and it was not like every day. And for a couple more years after that, I really didn't do a whole lot of journaling. But then I got to my junior year of high school in January, and again, I really wanted to keep a journal, and I remembered all these past ones I tried where I really hadn't kept up with it, but I had heard this little fact tidbit that if you want to form a habit, you have to try to do it for 21 days in a row to form the habit. And I thought, okay, well, let's see if I can do that with journaling. But instead of just doing it for 21 days, I really went above and beyond, and I challenged myself to continue keeping a journal for 6 months. And I figured if I could really be consistent, I don't feel like I was wanting to push myself to do it like every single day, but definitely more days than not. So I picked up this notebook. It's just a plain spiral notebook. It's nothing fancy. It's just one I had in my room. And I had some kind of magazine where I cut out this picture and pasted it on the front. And I started writing on January 30th, 2003. I don't honestly know what about this time where I was like, I want to start journaling. What was it about this particular time that it really seemed to take for me? I don't feel like I was going through any kind of really rough time. It was just kind of a normal school year for me. It was a good school year in a lot of ways. So I wasn't like really struggling with a whole lot of stuff, but man, I loved this journal. When I started writing, I was writing like pages. Like these are big pages, and yeah, I had like this little note in case my mom in case like my mom or my brother found it. I didn't want them to read it, so I don't know why, but I thought that that would really keep them out. But yeah, I like went. I was writing like tons of pages. I was cutting out stuff that I found online from different places. I was sticking in notes that I'd gotten from myself, or you know, little things. I put in some flower petals. I don't know what those are from, but there they are. One of the things that's hilarious about it, and that is so me, is that I started naming each of the journals. I would start writing in one, and after I got to a certain point, I would feel like there was a theme or something I kept coming back to, and that's what I would name the journal. When I named this journal, it had been such an explosion of words and writing for me that I decided to name the journal Explosion. But in classic me fashion, this is how I spelled it. I spelled it Explosion with a T because, you know what? That's how I spelled explosion. That brings me to my first tip for you if you are wanting to start a journal. And that tip is forget about writing rules. This is not a place to be worried about spelling, punctuation, grammar, complete sentences. None of that matters. just pick up the notebook or the journal or whatever piece of paper that you've got and start writing. That's the important thing when you are journaling. Like I said, in this journal, I had challenged myself to write for 6 months, and I did, and then I kept going because I loved it so much. I kept going all the way through college, really solid, like I was not taking breaks. There weren't like huge months in between these different books. They were very consecutive, and I was really consistent. I mean, I might miss a week here or there, but not much longer than that. It became this safe place. And if you watched my previous video I did a little while back on the fear of writing, this was the one place where I could go that there was no fear. There was no fear of judgment. And in that past video, I'll link to it in the cards and in the description if you want to check it out, I was talking about how, you know, we grow up, anytime we try to write, it's critiqued, it's judged. We're handing in an assignment to a teacher and they are giving us a grade back on it. They're telling us that this sentence isn't good enough, or this is spelled wrong, or, you know, you need to reformat this paragraph or whatever. All of it is critiqued and judged, but within the pages of your journal, they're not. You can do anything that you want. And that is my second tip, and it's really something just more to remember, is that there are no rules. You can do anything you want within the spine, within the covers of the journal that you choose for yourself. You can have it be super messy. It doesn't have to be anything special. You can paste crap in. This is an AOL Instant Messenger chat that I had that I pasted in here. That shows how old I am. I didn't fill in all of the pages. Some of them are really blank. All I had that day was some Bollywood lyrics that I apparently wanted to write out. I don't know why, because I didn't add any details to it. This one, like, there's pages in here I don't even know what this means. Can you read this? Like, what? Why? I don't know what it means, but it doesn't matter because at the time that's what I wanted to write, and I wrote it and it was great. So I kept journaling all through college, and that was such a special time. It's when I met my first boyfriend who would become my husband. So like this journal here has details about when he asked me out for the first time and our first date and all that kind of little stuff. And I was doing a lot of different things, pasting in all kinds of stuff. And you know, rereading this, there are tons of things in these books that I've totally forgotten about. Little snippets of life that if I hadn't recorded it, it wouldn't be remembered. It's super important. It was super important to me then, and it's still super important to me today. So my third tip kind of relates to keeping track of the time, and that is to make sure you date your entries. Now, I know I said there are no rules, and I don't think there are rules, and if you don't want to date your entries, you don't have to, but I have found the entry dating to be super helpful. It helps me remember which of these journals came first, which came after it, and all that kind of thing, which again, at the end of the day, is that like the most important thing? No, but I like knowing where they are sort of in the general timetable of my life. After college, I got really busy. I graduated, I became a teacher, I got a job teaching kindergarten, and while I really enjoyed it, I also was exhausted on a lot of days, and I stopped journaling for the first time since I'd started. I did not have a journal. I didn't write pretty much anything except lesson plans at the time. The year after that was when my husband and I got married. That was 2009, and I didn't feel that draw to write. I just didn't. I was kind of hard on myself. I was like trying to force myself to do it, and I really just didn't want to. It just wasn't something I felt like I needed anymore. So I stopped. I stopped journaling for quite a while, actually, several years. And then I kind of got started keeping track of different life memories, but not quite in this same kind of way, more in the form of scrapbooking. Here is my shelf of scrapbooks. I did that for quite a while. I have several years worth of Project Life journals, which if you don't know exactly what that means, just Google Project Life and there's all kinds of stuff that'll come up about it. I did little mini scrapbooks for a trip to India I got to be a part of. I took a little trip downtown to DC and did a little mini book on DC adventures. The great thing about scrapbooking is that it really is a journal. I did this project called Week in the Life. It's something that Ali Edwards does every year. You detail your life just a regular week in your life. You take pictures of like all the things, even stuff that seems kind of mundane and silly, but I'm so glad I did this project. I did it for several years, and it's so cool to see our old apartment building, the old view I used to have, the warehouse at my office, like just all kinds of stuff. You know, it's the kind of thing, like I took a picture of the interior of my car. It's the interior of my car, like who cares? But I don't have that car anymore, and I miss that car so much. I like having that picture of it. You know, we've got pictures of the traffic I was in the one day, a picture of the warehouse disaster we had going on, and all of this stuff seems so mundane. My workspace at my desk, I don't have that desk anymore, and I can't get that picture again. So I love this. I love that I took the time to detail all this out and take pictures of things that seemed not important, but here it is. And I'm really glad for it, even our messy dishes. I also like these, the picture of the grocery shopping cart, like what we would have bought in a regular grocery trip, which is very different than what I buy today. Oh my gosh, look at how many creamers I've got in there. What? I got 4 creamers in there. Maybe I had a coupon or something. I don't know why I'm buying 4 creamers, but anyway, that's another great way to keep track of your life. I found the scrapbooking community to be a really cool intersection of journaling and art and creativity. There is certainly an aspect to these journals that is creative. One of the things I always loved doing was hanging little tags. These were from like a pair of jeans I got, and I just hooked them onto the edge of the spiral. This was in some magazine. I liked cutting out magazine stuff. I even did a little bit of paint in this one. Here we go, some more like random stuff with markers. I really liked the idea of taking pictures of my everyday life and putting them into a journal. And eventually that sort of evolved into art journaling. I got into a whole bunch of different art journalers, and one of them I actually still follow because I just love her, Julie Faye-Fan Balzer. She's awesome. I took a class of hers that showed you how to create these junk journals, which I freaking loved. And this is really what got me back closer to what you would consider to be maybe real journaling. These were just so fun. Look at this. Like, it was just awesome. And I love junk journals were where you grabbed paper and little things you had laying around in your washi tape and you stuck them together to create these different pages. The class I took showed you how to create these covers and then bind it. Like, I made this entire thing myself. Then I started journaling in it. These are really fun. I don't know if you can really read the journaling all that well. I think if you really tried, you could, but I did this for a long time, and eventually it took on other forms. I did smaller journals like this one, which I even did stuff like this, which I don't know why I didn't like that. I kind of like it now, but oh well. This one ended up being just me playing with paint for the most part. There's not a whole lot of writing in it. There's some writing at the beginning. This is from 2014. Just, yeah. And man, this was such a great creative outlet for me. I loved it. I love looking back at these. They're a lot of fun. So I was sort of in this phase where I was really excited about the paint and the sprays and the stamps and all the different tools, pens and stuff that you had in that community, and I spent a lot of money on all these supplies. Ooh, I even was doing faces. Look at me go. Look at my crazy faces. I've got my Lawrence of Arabia ticket from when we went to see it at the AFI Theater. So I did do art journaling for quite a while. With the art journaling, the focus for me was almost more on the art part of it than on the actual journaling part, which is totally fine. Okay, sorry if this is at a slightly different angle. I recorded the final portion of this video and then realized the microphone wasn't on. Anyway, we were getting to the year 2017. 2017 ended up being probably the worst year of my life. It was a really rough year. There was a lot going on in my personal life that was just a disaster, I found myself coming back to journaling as that safe place, as that place where I could say anything I wanted, I could say it however I wanted, and it didn't matter. So I ended up using this journal for that year, and actually this journal started in like late December of 2016, and then I finished it in September of 2017. It spanned almost the entire year, and it's kind of funny because the front of this journal is kind of cool. I think it started out more like this, where it was just sort of a blank background, and then I colored it in as I went. I did little stars on the spine, so it's super cute. But this journal has more F words in it than any other journal I've ever done, past or present. So I was really angry in a lot of these pages. So despite the kind of cute exterior and the very aesthetic, you know, chunkiness of it, it's a really rough journal to look back on. There's a lot of hurt in here. There's a lot of uncertainty. It was okay to put those feelings and those emotions and those negative thoughts within the bounds of these covers. And that brings me to my next tip, and that is to allow yourself to be messy within the pages, especially when you're starting a journal. I know a lot of times when you start a journal, you want especially those first couple pages to be like the best handwriting and like it's super deep and you know, amazing, and it doesn't need to be that. You can have it be anything that it needs to be for you. Make it for you. Nobody else is going to see it unless you purposefully show it to them, and I would recommend not showing it to other people, just so that you have that peace of mind when you're writing that this is only for you. It's only ever going to be for you, and you don't have to worry about what other people are going to think of it. Be messy, especially in those first pages. If you want, when you start a journal, take a Sharpie and like scribble on the page. It doesn't matter. If you start it messy, it's much easier to be okay with whatever comes out on the subsequent pages. This one, I have some pages that are real cute and just kind of, some pages I did like this kind of thing. I had some paint pen kind of materials. I still had a lot of my art journal materials when I was doing this, and so I did these like flames on the page, and then on the flip side it had bled through and I didn't care. I just wrote over it and I used pretty messy handwriting. That was fine. It was what I needed it to be at the time. Fortunately, even though the beginning, especially of this one, is really raw, full of a lot of anger, there's some really, your girl was really going through it. By the time I finished this in September, things were definitely on the upswing. There was hope, and there was a lot of feeling finally like things were going to be okay. And I ended up starting another journal because I still had a lot of things I was trying to process. It was getting better, but it still wasn't like amazing or something. So I started another journal. This is from Moleskine. If you're interested in, I would think they still make these. It has a really flimsy front cover and then just lined pages inside. I'm sure they also have them with unlined pages if you prefer that. But I really went to town on this book. I hung little things off the edge. I had embroidered this, will it focus on there? There it is. I'd embroidered this little card and stuck it on here. I love this journal. This one is such an interesting change from what this one was. This one, there's so much angriness in it, and this one, there's so much fun. I put washi tape on the edges of all the pages. So all that little tape stuff is washi tape. I had a ton of washi tape. I still have quite a bit of washi tape, but I had more at that time. So I put all that on the edges, which is part of what makes it kind of chunky like this. I put little tabs on the top. Like, I was really, can you see those? I was really going to town on the fun journaling times. One of my favorite parts of this journal, and one of the reasons that I just love journaling so much, it just holds so many memories that you are gonna forget otherwise. This was the year my husband and I drove down to Richmond in Virginia and saw the Foo Fighters. We were living outside Washington, D.C. at the time, so this whole trip was like a 24-hour trip. We drove down, we had the concert, we spent the night, and we drove back the next day. But look at this. Like, I printed out an article from, like, you know, a newspaper down there, a review of the concert. I put our pictures in. I have the set list. I have our tickets stuffed in here. I went to town describing like every single part of this 3-hour event that we were at. And just like, oh my gosh. And then the next day I was continuing because I was so sad that it was over. And I mean, what a great time. That was one of like my favorite days of all time. And so I'm so glad I have it in this journal and I can reread it and relive the concert, you know? After this one, I got to a point again where things were kind of evening out in my personal life and I didn't feel the need to go back to the journal again. And so I didn't. Remember, there's no rules, and this has never been an activity where I've tried to like be down on myself if I didn't do it every day, or if I didn't fill in a certain number of pages, or if it didn't look a certain way. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. It could be anything I needed it to be, even if it was nothing. So I'll leave you with a final tip if you are wanting to start journaling. My tip is to go, I know right now it's maybe a little difficult to do this, but if you can safely go to a store, whether that is Barnes & Noble or Target or, you know, even a drugstore. Go to the store and actually hold the notebooks. See what feels good to you. I have used all kinds of different notebooks, and looking at some of these now, like I would not pick up this kind of notebook again, or at least not right now. This doesn't feel good to me right now. It's too big. I look inside, the lines are too small. I don't like it. So I wouldn't pick this up now. Other things like Moleskines are really popular. Sometimes these almost feel too fancy to me. That's the problem I find with a lot of those like super fancy notebooks at, you know, Barnes & Noble or something like that. They've got the leather covers, they've got the strip of leather where you can tie it around. And if you like that kind of journal and you'll actually use it, go for it. To me, they're too expensive and I feel intimidated by how nice they are. I go for the composition notebooks that are, you know, a few dollars at the store. This one here is just a sketchbook, probably from Michael's, and I just used it as a journal, and I didn't care that there were no lines. And I mean, these are, you know, you can use a 50% off coupon at Michael's. You can get it for a couple bucks. If you go to the store, especially at like school supply time, which we are coming up to, pick up a regular notebook, this kind of thing. Even really cheap ones, you can get them at Target. I mean, literally, they're like 89 cents, okay? You can jazz them up if you want. You can leave it completely plain and it's super cheap, but enjoy the feel of the notebook. If you pick up something like this and you're like, oh, it's so thin, and you just don't like it, feel the paper inside. See if you like the paper. Maybe you'll want something smaller. Like this one that I didn't finish. I've got stuff like this. This was a huge one. This was real chunky. Go to the store, pick it up, test the weight of it, feel the paper, carry it around the store if you want for a few minutes. Just see which one feels right to you, because if it doesn't feel good, you're not going to write in it. So find one that you feel comfortable in from the get-go. So that brings us to the present day. Where am I today with journaling? Well, I will tell you that I have been journaling every single day, which I'm pretty proud of. You don't have to journal every single day, but when it happens, I'm kind of proud of it. I've been journaling every single day since the beginning of March. It does look a little different than these journals here. I'm going to tell you a little more about how my journaling is looking nowadays next week. So if you want to make sure you get to see that video when it goes live, please click the subscribe button. I post videos on Tuesdays and Fridays. You can also follow me over on Instagram. I'm Meredith Phillips Writes over there. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video as well. Let me know in the comments today. Do you journal? Have you ever journaled? What does your journaling look like now? How has it changed over the years? What kind of journal do you prefer? What kind of pens do you prefer? Pens was like a whole nother situation, am I right? Like there's 10,000 different pens you could choose. My personal go-to pen is the Pentel RSVP Fine Line Violet pen. It is a cheap pen and I don't care. I love them. I use them for everything. So yeah, let me know below your thoughts on journaling and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me today. Bye.